Yes, and you're back with your girl, Lady Boss number one. And for this hour of the show, I have my man Stylus Gambino joining me. Good morning, Stylus.
You can hear me? You can hear me?
We can hear you. How are you this morning?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I'm good. So I'm super excited to have you back on the show. I know we've done this before. And since the last time, there's been a lot of time that lapsed in between since we've talked. So I just want to spend a moment for catching up for those who didn't see the previous interview with Silas and I. Definitely want to catch up with you and kind of see what is new and what is exciting and kind of what you've been doing. So I know, if you, for you guys that don't know, he's super producer, manager, engineer, all of the above. He wears many, many hats. Well, bring us up to speed. What have you been working on? What's new with you?
As far as the music, I've been quarterbacking a lot of things. Trying to stay in the background even more. You know, only because of you I'm doing this. I shy away from the camera now.
Well, I know you are definitely a backroom guy. You like to be the greatness behind what is showcased. But let's talk through that. What has made you what are the perks of being the background guy versus being out in the front? Why do you prefer that over that?
Well, you have a cell phone, right?
I do.
Yeah. So you get the end product. So you don't necessarily know exactly how it works. So why wouldn't you want to be the person that controls it all?
Oh,
You know,
it's about controlling it all with you, huh? Is that what we're saying?
not necessarily. It's like everybody needs a solid coach. You know, so if I can provide that coaching, you know, we win championships. That's the whole deal.
Absolutely. So let's talk through how you've been able to learn that craft and kind of perfect that craft. Because I mean, yeah, you have some people that they're brought up in it and they can learn it very quickly. But talk through how you've been able to navigate through that and just get better and better each time.
Well, at one point I wanted to be an artist myself, and then when I started to see all the loopholes of like, different friends that I have that got deals and they was super excited just to get shows, and then they never put no material out, and they can't put no material out because they signed to somebody and they didn't pay attention to words like maturity, which means like forever, and they gave away all their rights. They can't, you know. So I never wanted that to happen to me. So I started learning the business. You know, it's just like that show that 50 Cent produced, where the guy got wrongfully accused and he became a lawyer in jail and studied and found the loopholes to get himself out of jail. You know, so it's the same thing with the music industry. You gotta learn the business because it's only 10% talent. You don't even gotta have talent. You just need a solid producer and a good engineer, and they can make anything sound good.
Absolutely. I think you said a mouthful when you talked about just the rights and being able to own a right. And I know previously we kind of talked about that, but let's really dive into that. I mean, what would you say to somebody newer without giving out all the gems? I mean, because at the end of the day, if you guys want him to, manage you, again, his link and everything is will be in the bio where you can actually do that. But just what would you say to anybody newer coming into the game? Because I think a lot of this is what we see on social media. Social media plays a big part, and people think it's so easy, and they think, oh, even if they are talented, I got a good sound, I got a decent look, this will be easy. What would be your advice, and how do you navigate through that to become successful?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid to bet on yourself and invest in yourself. So a lot of people fall into the trap like, oh, I'm gonna get a manager or I'll get somebody to invest in me. But the more you take, the less you have. Because if somebody is paying for your studio time, you don't own that session. You don't own that masters. You didn't pay for that studio time. So if that person is collecting all these receipts and all that, you're creating, yes, but they own those masters. because they paid for it. At that point, you're just talent for hire. So you gotta, invest in yourself. Definitely build a catalog. Like at this point, when you go to labels and all that, they're not looking at how talented you are. They're looking at the numbers. They want to see that upward trajectory that your craft is moving at. And if you can't produce numbers, it's just like, what's the point? There's no such thing as artist development no more. You better know how to do that on your own, or just naturally got that. Because a label ain't giving you a budget to perfect your craft. They already want you to come in as a full functioning vehicle.
Yeah, and I think like when we think about how things used to be back in the day and how sometimes the big labels would invest in that, right? Depending on how much talent and potential they thought they saw and how much money they could make off you. But you bring up a really valid point where like one of the best things an artist can do in this day and time is already come ready. you know, because to your point, everything is really fast paced and people don't want to do that these days. They want you to come in already with equipped with all of these things and your style and your look. They could always help with that, but as it comes to the work and the talent, they want you to come in already ready to go. So as somebody that wants to get into this, if somebody wanted to get into this and you say just really work on yourself, describe that. What does that look like for somebody that doesn't understand that? And then you also said, this is the part two question, you talked about masters. Now, you and I know what masters are, but also dive into that. What is that?
So as far as the masters is the original copy of or the master production of whatever you created. So if this studio session at this stage was done at 12 o'clock, this was the engineer, this the vocals came from this person, the lyrics came from this person, or it all came from you. All that is documented, you know, and you want that initial vibe. Like even when I go work at other studios and stuff, especially if it's my session, I'm not leaving the studio with my sessionals. I'm taking my session off, but I want it all, because I paid for it, So you always want to hold on to your masters and whatnot because over time, as you build a catalog, it becomes valuable, you know. Then you can sell it, and that's like the end goal.
Yeah, so you just kind of talked about the ownership. So the key thing for those listening that I'm hearing is it's the ownership of it and owning the rights to it. Most often when you hear like Meg Thee Stallion, initially was in a really crazy deal with managers and stuff like that where she didn't own the right to her music and then she went under she's managed now through Jay-Z's team, right? And they got her out of that previous deal through court and she had to pay out a certain amount, but initially she didn't own the rights to the music that she was writing and she didn't produce it, but the music that she was actually writing, she didn't own the rights to it. And then she partnered with Jay Z's team, and I'm not sure what that deal looked like, but I'm pretty sure, with that team, it was
It's
beneficial.
better than what she had.
Yeah, it was better than what she actually had, right? So just understanding that you don't really own your music. Yes, you wrote it, and people are going to expect you to write it. Going back to what Silas said, they want you to come in knowing how to do certain things, but at the end of the day, you don't own it. So you can't say, "Hey, I'm leaving and I'm taking my stuff with me." They say, "Yeah, you can leave, but you're not taking this with you." And then talk through some of the benefits of actually owning your actual music. You owning it.
Because your masters is like a fishing rod. As long as you know how to fish, you will eat forever. You feel me? Like
I like that.
the labels want to give you a meal, and they feed you up front, which and that's the advance, but that's putting you in debt. So everything that's being because the simplest way I can put it is like you see like how a club hires an artist and they come and perform. The label is doing pretty much the same thing. They hire the artist, They give you an advance. Now you owe. Everything that you create is for the label. We already paid you for that up front. So if you get an advance, let's say they give you $1 million budget. A lot of artists ain't not getting $1 million, but let's say they give you $1 million budget. They give you 400 up front. You got 600 to do the production. You want this artist, that artist as a feature, and you blow through that. Then the album comes out, it's trash. You ain't making no money really, but you still in the red. So now they want another. Now you not happy because you're not getting another advance because they seeing you as a liability. You gotta get out of the red first before we dump any more money into it, you know? And then we might just spiral out and just have a downward trajectory. Because being in the music business, you gotta low key be crazy. Because you believing in something that's gonna work and this magical thing is just gonna change your life and you chasing that one song that's gonna change your life and you might never see that song. And you would do this for years on top of years. Like how many artists you know that it took them 10 years before they actually broke in? And they would tell you like, yo, I was damn near homeless, but they were still doing it. Is that really persistence or that's just insanity?
Yeah, and I think the world that we're in, and we'll go back to the first part of my question. Everybody wants everything fast. You know, they look at an artist and they'll say, "Well, I'm more talented than them, and if I get put on, I can do blah 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 blah." But to your point, most like real artists, it doesn't happen overnight. And to your point, you could be in the game 10 years before you actually get that big break, right? And it goes back to what we were talking about first, and going back to my first question. When you say they need to work on their craft and they need to keep perfecting that, as a manager, with your got on your manager hat for an artist, what does that look like?
All right, well, if you're an artist that, let's say you're performing, you're running on the breath, you barely can go get through a 15-minute performance without you looking like you're dying. That means you probably might have to change your diet. You probably might have to drink more water, go to the gym. You know what I mean? Learn how to run and sing at the same time to build up that stamina and endurance. That might be that might be one aspect of the development. But then let's say like, yo, you're an artist, you do performances, you're good at it, but your performance, you're not selling out like arenas, you're still in small venues. So why don't you have a merch table so you can have more like a direct to consumer transaction going on? Why why because your music is just a commercial to whatever else you're selling. So think about it like McDonald's. They never stop advertising. They never stop marketing. They and they've been around for years. They already got the following. They don't have to do that, but they still do that. So if they're still marketing and if they're still promoting their burgers, why would you ever stop promoting and not have something else that your music is what draws the people to you? So then you need to have something else to actually sell them. Because streaming on a whole, unless you're not doing millions and millions of streams, you ain't seeing no real money. Nobody, even up to this day, nobody knows exactly the value of a stream per se. They be doing it like, well, if you get a million streams for this month, some you'll get a check for like maybe $4,000. But you know how long it takes you to get to a million streams, especially if you don't got a engine behind you. So
And I think that's what people take for granted just because we're in a the world we're in right now is really we've used the term one hit wonders forever, right? That's been around forever. But literally, the world we're in now really is the epitome of one hit wonders. Like literally, you can do something really ridiculous and everybody takes on to that, and now it's viral for a good 30 days, right? And you may be getting money and then all of this stuff off of it, but then okay, what's the next thing after that dies down? What does that look like? And your point, if you haven't put the work in to perfect the craft and really brand yourself, what's next, right? What's next for you? We've seen this little dance that you've done a million times. We thought it was cute the first 5 million times we've seen it, but now people aren't checking for you anymore, and you know, it's not because somebody else has came out with an interesting little dance, and so to when you think about that, and if you were the one hit wonder, what do you think goes into that mindset to continue to ride that wave? Because if you get that, that's a wave that you can ride, but like, what does that look like? Trying to ride it and keep it going, I guess.
Well, to reinvent yourself is always a task. There ain't no right answer to reinvent yourself. It could be, man, it could be a lot of things. Like, just as an example, some people went to love and hip hop, and they they got a spin-off off of it, and it propelled them into something else. And then some people went on there, and their careers died. You know, so it's never, there ain't no wrong or right to that particular question in terms of reinventing yourself or keeping yourself relevant. You just gotta find your niche, you
Yeah.
know. But also too, controversy sells, you know. And I don't know, a lot of people do. A lot of people be leaking their own sex tapes and stuff like that, and then they try to have a whole scandal or whatever. But my thing is though, they do that, and sometimes they sex tapes are whack. I'm like, why would you even put that out?
Not the wax sex tape.
Think about it. Think about it. Everybody that quote unquote they sex tape got leaked. When you finally saw it, it was whack. Shorty from Love and Hip Hop, the one that was holding on to the shower curtain, the shower rod.
Oh yeah, Mimi.
Yeah, that was whack.
You
You
thought that
know,
was whack? Well, even with her, and just like with Kim K, who's probably made the most off of a sex tape. You remember
that was fire.
that
The audio was fire.
the audio was good. I agree with that. But
Yeah,
the thing of it was the leak, and we'll keep using that word loosely, no pun intended, but we'll use that word loosely. They actually went back in and actually had directors, lights, camera action, and re-recorded those things.
yeah.
And like you said, the Mimi one, it wasn't real great. But then more recently, like Sexy Red's thing, she said she accidentally
Oh,
was
that was
blowing.
trash.
Right,
That
right.
was
It's
trash.
just like that's an avenue that you can travel down, but it's a really, it could be a really sticky avenue, no pun intended, because again, depending on who's looking at it, it's gonna either be able to be catapulted to a Kim K, and like I said, since Kim K did that, nobody has even
Nah,
been
ain't nobody
close.
ever.
And
Kim K.
I have my ideas of why no one has ever has been able to come close, but we're not talking about that. But the reality of it is we have other people that tried that. We have Shannon Sharp that claimed his audio got leaked, although it was on
Nah,
live and you got to press a million buttons to
Unc did
actually
that
know about
himself, you know. Unc did that himself because when you go on IG and you click live, it's a couple of other things that you gotta do before you actually go live. It doesn't just a one click, let's go type vibe. So Unc leaked that, you know. Shout out to Unc.
And we'll talk about just what's current later on in the show. But to your
Yeah.
point, you were just kind of talking about as an artist and as somebody that wants to really be in this realm, how do you keep reinventing yourself? And yeah, you're right. Some people do go down those avenues. You know, I think, some others, like Eric, who we're going to talk to later on, constantly performing and just being in people's face doing the live performances, and really, really getting out there to have the people see you and really start creating that fan base. So when you think about that for an artist, and if you were managing that artist, what does that look like? Really trying to create that fan base.
Well, as far as a manager, it's a lot of work, and but but if the artist is willing to be a team player, it makes it easy.
Yeah.
Now, and it be simple stuff that some artists might find it so hard to do, but it makes the manager's job so much easier. Now, if you as a manager, you want your artists to be like posting every day, creating content every day, and all that stuff. Because the more they create, you have more stuff that you can work with. You know, you have more stuff that you can probably talk to different other people and say like, yo, she can do this, or he can do this, or this is something that he's working on recently, or this is something that she has done recently, or whatnot. And it really boils down to the work ethic. Some artists think because, yo, I just dropped a project, I shouldn't be. I feel like I don't need to go to the studio anymore. I feel like I don't need to write anymore. You know, I gained success off of this record, so I'm just gonna only make these type of records. But then, as a manager, I need you to show growth. I need you to show depth. You don't want to show no personality. You like, you know, even like fashion wise, you think that you just want to stay in this particular mold, but yo, this is making you look one particular way, and we try to go more corporate and trying to get different type of deals, you know. So it's a whole lot that goes into even small things that can either make it or break it. Because as a manager, when somebody asks you to manage them, especially as an artist, I don't think at times a lot of artists know what they're asking you for, because they're asking you to think about them more than yourself. They're asking you to like figure out like how do I keep this artist working, or keep them relevant, keep them stay getting interviews, keep them like getting booked and whatnot. Or if they got legal issues, making sure like the right lawyers are are on call, you know, so that you can get them out and whatever. And even that's a liability, you know. And then too, a lot of artists really think that yo, the manager owes them something, not realize yo, the manager works for them. You really supposed to be cutting me a check, you know. But some artists will think about it like, well, I got a manager, so my manager paid for my studio time and all that. I'm I'm not your manager now. We business partners at this point, you know. And that goes back down to like, yo, yo, what I was discussing earlier, like the person that's paying for these studio times and collecting the masters and all that, they're the one that is owning all this content. You know, you're just at this point you're just talent for hire, you know, and that's where a lot of managers see that, and then they want to give the artist some kind of sleazy contract that they signed this contract, but then let's say they get onto a major, now this contract now is attached to that, you know. So whatever that you perceive, imagine you sign a management deal with somebody, you didn't fully understand it, and you get a major situation. They're giving you, let's say, they're giving you 600,000, and 200,000 is an advance. But because of what you signed before, now the manager is entitled to 100K. You didn't even know that. So now you got 100K, and they might not even pay you. They want to pay the manager first. You know, so it'd be
So
crazy.
yeah, I mean, just really thinking about all of that, I think it goes back to what you said initially. The best thing any artist or any person could do for themselves is really understand the business, right? And yeah, you get into a situation with a manager and they're managing you. But I also think sometimes in this game, um, when managers have a certain artist may have a certain vision for what a project is supposed to look like, a manager may have a different vision, but going back to you saying understanding what the manager's role is, and I just really blanket it as this: if I'm good at something, it's because I'm able to take criticism and take critiques. But if I really want to get great at something, I'm going to pay somebody to give me that. Like literally, because this person that I'm actually paying to give me that, they've already established that they get it. And then I'm using them to get me to the next level. And I think with a lot of artists, they want to be creative. That's the draw. Continue to be creative, but you also gotta step back and understand what role clarity is. If I'm the artist, I am the artist. I'm producing. You said a mouthful when you said artists need to stay in the studio. You need to constantly write, 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 write. But then the other side to that is I'm the artist, but you're the manager. So if you're saying this sound needs to be tweaked this way, even though I'm the artist and I'm passionate about that sound and whatever I wrote, again, understanding the role clarity. And I think most often, I mean, people that's been in the game for a long time understand that. But I think most often with artists, sometimes, they're not their egos, but their feelings get fractured because they don't understand the role of the manager. Sometimes you're not gonna be aligned, and that's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean, you just kind of summed that up, and everything she was saying. That's what I was hearing.
yeah, and like I said, it's a good balance when the artist knows the business as well, because the manager might be thinking business, 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 and the artist is thinking art, um, creativity, and whatnot. They're not looking at like, yo, they might just be, I just want to create. I don't care about all that business. You know, so at times, it can get tricky. You know,
And then segue into Eric. How did you come across meeting Eric?
his cameraman, that's my guy. Sam. Um, I've been knowing him for like, well, I know Sam for years, but I've been knowing of Eric for like a little bit, like a year and a half or so, or less. And Sam would send me like, whether if it was records or videos, and ask me, like, "Yo, what do you think, or what's my critique, especially on the videos?" And I'll be like, yo, you can change the lighting, add this, you can get it sharper, the transitions are good, you know. And at first I was like, yo, you talented, you know, but I wasn't, I just like wasn't really paying him no mind. And then he started sending me more stuff. I'm like, yo, he's really good, And then he sent me more stuff, and by the time I know it, I'm like already like about five, 8 songs in. I'm like, yo, this this kid is like, nah, he got something. You know what I mean? From the look, from like, talent wise, and then he writes, records, and everything himself. I was like, nah, I'm gonna see what's up. So then I reached out to Sam, and Sam was like, yo, I'm gonna connect y'all, and then he did that, and then I ended up connecting him with one of my homies from New Jersey that's a platinum producer, Raw, and you know they've been cooking up, and then you reached out and said that you were going to do an interview, so I put them on to you, and it just keep on going, you know.
Yeah,
But
and I definitely love that. And let's go ahead. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show.
What up? What up? What up? What's up, y'all?
what's
How
going
you
on?
doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I am super excited to have you. I can't tell you enough. When Stylus and I started kind of talking about what he had going on, and he was like, "Hey, I want you to look at this artist. Go to his page, listen to some of the music, right?" And I'm listening to the music, and I'm listening to some of the songs that you had written, and I'm like, when I'm hearing this guy's voice, you have an amazing voice. Let's start there. But
Thank you.
then when I'm
Thank
listening
you.
to the music, it brings me back to a time where music just made you feel good. Like, wow, like I was so super excited. This guy got an old soul. Like he got such an old soul, and it just gives you that type of vibe. So let's jump into that. let's talk about you because, like I said, everybody, I read everything on you, but give everybody that's listening a little, some background on you. Like, how did you get into music?
Yeah, so thank you first of all for having me. What's up, Silas? Um, Thank y'all for putting this
What's
together and
going on,
letting
my
me
brother?
express it. Yes, sir. So I come from a very musical family. My grandfather is a pastor in the city of Atlanta, and I grew up in that light in that era. One of his mentors is actually Aretha Franklin's father. Um, so that's like one side of it. And then another thing is my dad has always been a celebrity barber, and one of his main clientele was Keith Sweat. So I grew up going over to that house. So I had like a good mix of gospel and R&B growing up all my life. And that's kind of how I got into it. And it really wasn't until like I've always wanted to do it, but the opportunities for me never really opened up. Like I watched some of my closest friends, like from college and even high school, really take off and do some really dope stuff. And I was always like, dang, like I feel left out. Like where's when am I gonna get my chance? When am I gonna get my shot? And it just never worked out. Like all up until even most recently. And then I kind of positioned myself. I finished all of the school I wanted to do. I'm not going back to school. I'm done with that. And then I decided, I said, I'm done with that. I ain't doing that no more. I was like, I'll stay in school and finish, but I'm done. I've done enough. I've done enough for you and your mama. So I'm good. Um, but no, I'm at a place now where like okay, I'm working professionally. I'm doing my 9 to 5 or whatever, and I realized I was in Boston. I'm like, okay, cool. I got a little extra time to kind of do a little bit more of my passion now. Maybe I can step into it. This was probably about a year and a half ago. I started like really reaching out into the city, and I started singing in church. I was going to this church in the city, started singing. As a result of singing in that church, I got the opportunity to sing at Symphony Hall in Boston, which is actually where I met Sam. And when I met Sam, I was like, yo, I'm trying to get into the city, kind of start doing some stuff. He introduced me to the Record Co., which is a recording studio here. And we did my first photo shoot here. And ever since then, I was like, yo, you're going to be my videographer. And I was like, I ain't never seen your videos, but we going to link up. Ever since then, man, we've been rocking. I put out my first single last year, literally about a year ago to the date. Put out my first single. The response was very well, and I was sitting on that song for 3 years. Like I hadn't put out music or anything, but dropped that music. People was like, "Yo, this is fire! Like you need to come. Like what you doing? Like where's the music? What you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, y'all really wanna like rock out?" Cause see, what they don't know is I've been writing and recording this whole time. Like I'm a machine. Like I'll write a song in 2 hours. It's nothing for me to and because I've been recording for so long, I know how to record myself, track myself, all that stuff. So it's easy for me to get a song written and done. I was like, I just need the space and the opportunity to do it. And basically, meeting Sam put me in a network in the city, which was crazy. I had no idea who I was connecting with, and that's how I met Silas. That's how I met a whole lot of other people. I got connected to a bunch of venues in the city, and because my style, like you said, is like old soul a little bit, and most of what I do, like I try to blend my background of like gospel and R&B to make a certain sound, but I'm inspired by people like James Brown and Otis Redding and all these people, and I'm looking at bringing those sounds into like the new age because that's not here anymore. And so because my style is so different, it stands out, and I think that's what has given me the opportunities I've had most recently. And I heard Silas say this earlier, but I'm also interested in figuring out ways to reinvent myself so it's not just staying in that pocket, but what else can I do to move right into bigger spaces where the checks are bigger, the corporate sponsors, what does it look like to get on this stage? What is it going to take to require me to open up for Mary J. Blige on her tour or something like that? Like that same type of energy is not going to be sufficient. The same show I give at a bar is not going to be the same show I give in an arena, right? So I got to know how to level up and do these different things. But I will also say, and I'm gonna stop talking because I can talk forever. But I will also say,
It's your interview. I
I,
want you to talk forever.
I appreciate it. I will also say though that I learned what I didn't know over the time of not being able to do what I really wanted to do. And what I mean by that is I wasn't ready to be what I'm doing, to be doing what I'm doing right now. to 5 years ago. It took me waiting that time to figure out, okay, you got to actually strategize and plan and put everything in place in order for you to really set yourself up to be successful and have like longevity in the music industry that you are trying to enter, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, you have an amazing, like, just being able to grow up that way is definitely phenomenal. You have that both sides, and you're being able to channel into that. But I'll ask you this, because gospel singing is a very different way to sing versus if you're singing just just in general, right? So when
Yep.
I listen to your music, I can hear that you're able to change that tone and change that range. Have you ever been have you ever been in a situation where you have been taught vocally, or is this just comes natural for you?
Oh yeah, well, over all of those years where I said I was trying to do it, I've had several vocal coaches. I had a gospel vocal coach, and I actually shout out to my current vocal coach. He's a part of the MBK family, which is like her and all of like Alicia Keys and all those folks in New York. So I got to train with him too, and that kind of like gave me more of the R&B edge. He used to tell me because I would come in singing, I sing the gospel people, the Fred Hammonds and Marvin Sapp, like all those folks. I would sing like those folks, and he was like, I feel I got a little, you give me a little bit more of like a Jamie Foxx feel, and that's one of my favorite singers, like Jamie Foxx, Tank, all of, like those that era, those guys, those sounds, man, those are my favorite singers. So I started kind of mimicking those guys to get more and more into what R&B kind of sounds like. So yeah, so and training with him kind of made me tone it down a little bit because gospel, you sing real hard and it's real loud and it's real strong. It's a lot of runs and it's a lot of like acrobats, and you got to really be impressive and you got to really show up. Your voice is the standard, but in R&B, you glide into the music, right? It's the whole song that right like that raises together. So I had to learn how to tone my voice down a little bit, but make it still present, but make sure it fits within the music because you're providing a vibe for people. It's not just you singing. It's a lot of singers out here that are phenomenal singers that don't sell records, and the reason is because their voices are phenomenal, but people that it's called ear fatigue. People get tired, after, especially the average ear can't handle or interpret or appreciate all of that extraness. So you got to learn how to make sure you keep the your vocal leveled with the music so that it creates a consistent vibe for people when they listen to you. So it's palatable. And I don't mean palatable in the sense of like dumbing down your music or your creativity or your art, but make it where people can actually access what you're trying to get done.
Yeah, and definitely you hit a lot of key points just in that. I mean, I think people don't they underestimate having a vocal coach. And I think that's super, super important. You have to have a vocal coach. I have a small musical background, right? So I definitely understand the ability with the voice and being able to control the voice and all of that. And I can appreciate the person that can do all the runs and have different octaves and, always on pitch. Those are great things, right? But being able to know how to use that and when to use it is a whole nother type of thing, and that's where the vocal coach come in, right? You know, um, I've had these debates with people about like when you they always refer to Brandy as the vocal the vocal the Bible, right? And
Vocal
they're
Bible,
like,
yeah.
oh, she her voice isn't like Mariah Carey's or Whitney Houston's or this that. And I said, but think about what they're saying about her. Her voice doesn't have to be about that, but she understands the ingenuity of the voice. She
Right.
understands how to flip the voice. She understands how to throw the voice. She understands how to give you that grit or that
Yeah.
smoky. That's the vocal Bible, not that she's
Yeah.
better singers than any of these other people. And
Right.
kind of that's what you
Right.
described. Like
Right.
from transitioning from the gospel, right? And understanding you do
Yeah.
sing gospel a certain type of way. But then looking at even with gospel, the old school gospel versus, the newer ones, right? They don't
Right.
sing the
Right.
same way. And just really understanding. And I think to your other point, where you have people that can really, really, really sing. Like you take like somebody like a Shantae Moore that like
Mhm.
has an amazing voice, right? And she did get a
Yeah.
little bit of play, but she never got to that status.
Yeah.
Like a Kiki, Kiki Wyatt, her
Yeah.
voice is
Oh my
crazy,
God.
right? It's
Wow.
insanely crazy. But when you
Yeah.
compare her to, and this is not to take any shade at anybody, so
Right.
Beehive,
Right.
don't come coming to get me or do anything crazy, because people are really crazy. But when you think about her voice compared to like a Beyonce's voice, she has a decent voice, Beyonce. But when
Yeah.
you compare it to like a Kiki, it is
Yeah.
night and day, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just completely night and day. Now the caveat to that is like a Jennifer Hudson that has an amazing, really strong, powerful voice, right? But again, it's certain levels to it, right? And you
Yeah.
sit and think,
Yeah.
well, why is that this and this person is so more talented? But it goes back to what you said. People don't want to hear that all the time. People get tired of that. We know that you can
Yeah.
sing. We know you can do all the acrobats vocally. We don't want to hear that all the time. Give me the soft. Like, give me
Yeah.
all of that as well. Like, allow me to take that journey with you. And then you also said about your journey and being able to take that ride. And as a listener and as a fan of anyone, I want to be able to take that ride with you. I want to be able to see the growth. Like when I saw Eric 10 years ago versus Eric now, does that vibe translate? Was he able to stay relevant? And I think sometimes the difference of an artist staying relevant and not relevant is because they don't transition. They don't
Yeah.
be able to take that ride. And you put that beautifully when you said that. Um, so I listened to your album, and I have some songs that we're gonna go ahead and play for everybody to hear, and then we'll talk
Okay.
through that. So you're smiling. So yeah, we got some different music that we're gonna go ahead and get popping because, like I said, I was just listening to your album. I'm like, this is serious business here. Like this guy is giving me all the warm and fuzzies and all of that good stuff. So yeah, let's
Hey.
get into it. All right. Now I'm not technically savvy, but give me a minute. I will get it up. But I may even have to get the engineer in here. But it was already pulled up actually because we were testing it out. So, test it. Okay. The first song we're gonna we're gonna get into is sorry I can't. All right, as we work through these technical difficulties, let's talk about your writing process. What does that look
Okay.
like when you're writing music? What does that look like?
Well, so it's developed over the years. The way I usually start, I've had several mentors over my life that have taught me kind of how to write in phases. My first mentor told me that I should start with a melody. If I hear a beat or whatever I hear, like an instrumental or something, start with the melody and build it from there. I've had other writing coaches that tell me to start with the concept, or if you start with a melody, get a concept first and then start pinning down words. Because what you don't want to do is do like a freestyle into an idea, because you'll end up getting lost. Sometimes that does work, but most times if you're trying to like execute and you're trying to like get to a point and you're on a time crunch and you like really need to get something done, start with a melody, get a concept going, a really strong concept, point me to something, make sure the song is pointing to an idea or direction or some sense of a where we going, like where we landing. You're taking me on a journey and like where we ending. And then make sure the words are, catchy, relatable, clever. Be slick with the way you write about a certain thing, depending on what you're talking about. If you're talking about relationships, use metaphors and similes. Um, Make sure that that it's not too sing songy, but also very easy to sing. Like this, something that the general public can catch on easy to. And I've made all of those mistakes. I've had songs that were not catchy enough. I've had songs that were way too catchy, but it was too many words. I've had you know, concepts that I thought were cool and that were easy to catch on, but they kind of suck. People be like, oh yeah, this ain't good. This is not good. I mean, it's the worst feeling in the world to have somebody tell you that your song don't work, especially when you think that the song is fire. It's like, oh yeah, this song fire. You send it to somebody and they be like, or the worst part is you send a song to somebody and they don't respond when they usually respond. It's like they don't. You send it off and they don't respond. And you be like, dang, is it not? And it's because they don't want to say nothing bad, but they just like, I ain't really fooling with this. Because if they do rock with it, fire immediately. Like fire sign emojis or something like that. So, yeah. So my writing process is pretty consistent now. But I'm on like the Dolce wave now, where I'm really in like my one song a day kind of bag. Where I'm just like, all right, cool. Let's get to one song a day every day. Let's knock out a song. Oh, cool. There we go. It sounds like music right there.
I paused it though because you were talking, but when you think about that, are you that artist that has to be in a certain mode to write, or can you just write? What does that look like for you?
I generally can write. I think if I'm depending on what my emotional state is, my song can be 10 times better than it usually is, or just not good at all. If I'm distracted by someone else in the room, I usually do like to write by myself. But if I'm distracted by other people in the room and like other stuff coming at me, I have a very hard time writing. But if I'm like on my own and like kind of by myself, and I get to like kind of deal, because the other thing about it is when I'm writing, I'm dealing with all of the thoughts in my head, and not all of the thoughts in my head are relatable or receivable from other people, like in the room. So sometimes I have to take those thoughts, no matter how wild they can be. I have to take them and kind of condense them into something that's kind of palatable. And if somebody's in the middle of that process, it can be very difficult. So I have to like be by myself in order to get through how I'm going to tell the story, and then I can give you the song. I can't have you in the room though. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally get that. So the first song we're going to jump into is Apology. What was the, I mean,
Ooh.
it speaks to itself, but what was the premises behind this?
Yeah. So apology. So I gotta say the whole album is me. It's basically an ode to my favorite era of R&B, which is early 2000s. And that's just my personal era. Some people got the 80s, some people the 90s, 70s, whatever. But mine was the early 2000s. That's when I grew up, kind of thing. And this is my Tank, Ruben Studdard, Underdogs, Genuine song. Like I was like, I want to make a song that sounds like what they used to sound like. And so that was basically my job here, to make that sound, make that feel, make that emotional connection, and really speak to what it means to own your stuff.
Okay, we'll get into it. Apology, guys.
Damn, I'm sorry. For the times I lied when I gave my word, I apologize. I've done a lot of things that you don't deserve. I apologize. For the times you came home, I was gone. On the plane, left my phone at home. And that would be my excuse, that I never saw where you called. I apologize. And for everything that I've done, and I do. Tell me what can I do to make it all up, to make it Accept my apology. Accept my apology. For the times I was mad when I ignored you. Day 3 and I wouldn't even talk to you. I was wrong, but I wanted you to hurt. When I should've just listened to you first. But I'm a Pisces, and sometimes I let my emotions get the best of me. And for everything that I've done, oh baby, and I do. Tell me what can I do to make it all up, to make it all up to you. I was tipping up and I got caught. Telling you that it ain't, telling you it ain't. So will you please accept my apology? And for everything that I've done, and I do. Tell me what can I do to make it all up to you, to make it up to you. I was tipping up and I got caught. Telling you that what I gotta do, baby. Oh, baby. Will you please accept my apology? And I got caught. Oh, no, I did you wrong, baby. I did you wrong, baby. Oh, baby. Please, please, baby, tell me, baby, that you will please accept my apology.
All right, when I tell you I love that song, when I listened to that, I was like, wow, I just so love that song. And I caught it. You said you're a Pisces. You know, you're my Pisces brother, right? When's your birthday? March 3rd?
March 3rd.
I'm March 13th.
Whoa.
I know, right? So yes. I was like, when I heard it, I was like, okay, all right, I can understand this song then, right? It makes sense of everything you said, but yeah. So tell everybody what you got coming up next. Give them your IG, all your handles, so they can be able to reach out to you.
Yes. So you can find me everywhere at Aric B Music, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the social media platforms. My if you search my name in like any of the search engines, or you search on like Apple Music or Spotify, you can find me at Aric B, ARIC and then B. Listed right here. Actually, it's on my name too. And then my website is www.aricbmusic.com. If you want to remember it, the easiest way to remember it is that it rhymes with R&B. That was unintentional. My mom named me that, so it just kind of goes together. I didn't know I was gonna be doing R&B. It worked out that way. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right, and last but not least, Stylus is the man that wear all the hats. How can they reach out to you, my friend?
Yes, you can reach out to me at Stylus Gambino on every platform.
Simple enough. This guy is, I'm not going to say he's a man of few words because he does have, if he's talking about something he's passionate about, even song, but he's always short and sweet, very simple. And I'm your girl, Lady Boss #1, and this is Let's Talk. You know where to find me on IG and Facebook. And thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day to spend the day with me. I'll be definitely watching out for you because, like I said, you already got me tuned in. I love the music. Continue to do what you're doing, and I wish you the most success. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right.